I have got a cold crack. Who needs a cold case when you can have a cold crack?
You can crack a cold one.
Crack. Oh my God.
Eavesdroppin.
Wow. Okay, 1, 2,
3.
Eavesdropping.
Possessed.
Now, Eavesdropping is a podcast where two friends, namely you, Michelle, and myself, Geordie, get together in different countries and just chat shit about whatever takes our fancy. Mostly, what is it again?
Supernatural. Super normal.
That's it.
And
Hang
super
on.
random.
Super random.
And I think
And that's what you signed up for.
Yeah.
So what are we discussing today, Mish?
Well, so this week's spooky topic harks all the way back to December 26th, 1973, when on Boxing Day, Warner Brothers released what is considered one of the scariest horror movies of all time. Can you
I
guess?
know which one. Yes. It's The Exorcist. Okay. Well, because I did my own little bit of research about horror films this week, so I'd be interested to see what you come up with.
Well, I mean, the interesting thing about The Exorcist is that there are three kind of like scary parts to this story, which is obviously the film itself, also the backstory to the film, and then like what happens after. So
Okay.
I think, maybe I'll just tell you a little bit about the film.
Let's hear it, Mish. I haven't seen it for many years. I do remember being absolutely stricken when I did see it. Maybe I was quite a bit younger. But yeah, it's a stunner, isn't it? Stays with you.
Well, it does. But the thing is, I mean, it was released in 73, and like nearly half a century later, it's still like in the top 10 scariest movies of all time. I mean, for me, I thought I remembered this film. In preparation for this, I watched it again. I literally remembered nothing. Like, I have zero memory for like the scary stuff. I guess what I remembered most about the film was like the spinning head. And
I'll tell you what I remembered most. And every time I think of The Exorcist, I just think, your mother sucks cocks in hell.
Well,
Right?
you see, but that's the thing. Like, I had totally forgotten that. And so basically, it's a story of a 12-year-old girl, Regan, who, after playing with a Ouija board, becomes possessed by demons.
She's a daughter, an only daughter of a single parent as well. You should add that in. I think that's important.
She is. She's the only daughter of a single parent who happens to be a film star in
Very glamorous.
the movie. She
is in the movie as well.
She is. She's a film star in the movie.
Forgotten that.
Yeah, see? And Ellen Burstyn. And she's got some good outfits. Not a lot, but she has got some good outfits in that movie.
That face.
I know. She was very
beautiful.
Good. Yeah, really beautiful. So after she becomes possessed by demons, the mum...
In the film,
the mum, Ellen Burstyn, she has no idea what to do. So she takes her off to all these doctors who prescribe her Ritalin. Oh, yes. And then, of course, she turns to the church for help. And, dun, 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 an exorcism. So... I mean, it is that classic tale of good versus evil.
Well, the Catholics love all that, don't they?
Well, they do.
They do love a bit of ritual and ceremony. We were talking about Crowley last week, and he likes a bit of ceremony, but so do the Catholics.
They do.
And to be honest, no one knew what an exorcism was until this film came out.
I wouldn't be surprised.
They say.
Yeah.
Well, people do, but no, it wasn't in general consciousness.
No.
Just the really devoted Catholics.
Because, I mean, obviously, the Catholic Church is full of rites and rituals, and this is just sort of one of them. But, in this film, I mean, it really is like good versus evil, religion versus the devil, where in the end two priests die and poor Reagan's left with a mutilated vagina. Oh, sorry.
What happened to her vag?
It's mutilated. So
Is that because of the self-abuse with the crucifix?
Yes, well, this was the thing. Like, there are 5 things I'd forgotten about The Exorcist,
Okay.
which pretty much was everything.
So you were just aghast throughout this film.
I was. And so the first one. Okay, so thing number 1. They say cunt quite a lot in the film.
That's quite forward in the 70s, I'm sure, with a child present.
Well, but this is the thing. Like, so at the beginning of the film, when the doctor is examining Reagan / Linda Blair, when the mum was like, "Oh, I don't know what's wrong with her," in the post kind of examination meeting afterwards, the doctor says, "Well, your daughter was, blaspheming quite a lot," and the mum says, "Well, what did she say?" And he says, "Well, she said to me, 'Keep your fingers away from my goddamn cunt.'" And I was watching this
I don't remember that.
No, I didn't remember.
Was she possessed at the point, like, when she went to the doctors? I can't remember. You'll have to remind me.
Yeah, she was possessed. So I was like, oh my God. I mean, they flip the C word throughout the whole thing. And then when her head's spinning and she's like the voice of the director, she's like, do you know what she did, your cunting daughter? And I was like, bloody hell, like they are.
So she was speaking as what's the name of the demon? Pazazu.
Well, that's what it says online. But actually, in the film, you never hear the demon referred to as anything more than the devil. So she's just a cunting demon. Right. And yes, as you said, and this was my second point, there is in general quite a lot of excellent swearing in the film from poor little possessed Regan, including that immortal line, "Your mother sucks cocks in hell." But then it's also quite full on. Like, there is this one scene which I thought was very prescient because, as we know, there's been a lot of controversy with the church and, priests.
Right. I know where you're going with this.
Yeah. And there is this one point where she says to Father Mirren, who is the one who's trying to give her the exorcist in the end, she's saying, like, she said something like, I know you want to fuck me and touch me and all this kind of stuff. Like, it's really kind of full on. But then she's also saying, stick your cock up her ass, you motherfucking worthless cocksucker.
Oh my goodness.
I know. And then she's screaming, like, fuck me to the doctor who prescribed her Ritalin. I mean, she's 12 in the movie.
I do think they used a body double for a lot of her scenes, especially the self-mutilation with the cross. That was a body double of a woman who was a bit older and she was thinner. Not thinner. What am I?
Thinner?
She wasn't thinner. She was a small lady, so she looked similar. I've got to edit that out. She's not thinner than a 12-year-old girl. She was a small lady, body double. So I think she did a lot of the more outrageous scenes that poor 12-year-old Linda Blair was expected to do. But
well, this was the thing, like, point number 3, I literally had no memory of the fact that she fucks herself with a crucifix. And I mean, I literally did not remember that. How can you not remember that? And she's there yelling, "Let Jesus fuck you." And she's grabbing this cross.
I know.
And it
stabbing.
Is fucking insane. I mean, there's blood everywhere. I mean, Ouch. It is a bloodbath. And then she grabs the mum's head and she puts it down to her fanny and says, "Lick me, lick me."
Oh my God, I don't remember any of that.
I mean, what the actual fuck? Then the other thing I totally forgot. I mean, really, the only thing I remembered was the head spinning scene. I remembered nothing else. I did not even remember, like, the projectile vomiting. With the pea soup. Yeah. No, I had no memory of that.
Do you know what? It is no wonder that audience members were absolutely fainting from shock and horror just from the effing and blinding alone. And, these sexual connotations, the little girl being there. I mean, William Friedkin, the director, he was a bit of a groundbreaker. I think he was also a bit of a rule breaker when it came to filming things. And I think he went quite far in order to get his shots and his reactions from the cast. I think a lot of the time the cast weren't even aware. Oh, there's a story about a gun going off.
Oh,
is there a scene where a gun goes off? She shoots a gun, Regan. Linda Blair was the only person who knew that was going to happen.
Yeah, right.
So that she didn't look shocked, but the rest of the cast were like, what the fuck?
Yeah. I mean, I think it was an insane set.
There was also a couple of accidents that happened. Do you know about that? Like Linda Blair and Ellen Burstyn both got injured during scenes.
Yeah.
Because they were all like strapped up. But they're in the film. That little girl breaks a couple of vertebrae in her back, flipping back and forth.
Jesus Christ.
And she's screaming and crying for real.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like, I think he had no qualms in putting real reactions to terrifying and mutilating kind of events into the film. But, I mean, it was a super scary film at the time. And I honestly, like, I don't know how my mom actually...
She watched it?
She let us watch it. Jen, not even joking. Jen, I don't even know why she would do this, but she would let us go to the video store. And when we were kids, we watched all of it. Amityville Horror, Rosemary's Baby, Children of the Corn, Nightmare on Elm Street, Evil Dead. Jen just went down. We hired our little Betamax videos and popped them in. We were watching all of it. I don't even know where she was. Why would she let it? Why is she letting us do this? But we saw all of them, and I mean,
probably having some well-deserved me time, raising 4 children. She needed a bit of a break on the back veranda with her fags.
Yeah. Yep. Thanks, Jen.
So, going back to The Exorcist, what else is there that you want to tell me about?
Well, I guess. For me, what I found interesting was the sort of backstory to The Exorcist.
Yes, talk to me about that.
So it's actually based on a true story. And this kid, it was actually a guy, a little boy.
Yeah.
His real name has never been revealed, ever. And he's known as Roland Doe. So not his real name. Who in the late 1940s in Cottage City, Maryland, not far from Washington, D.C., at 14 years of age, underwent an exorcism performed by the Catholic Church. So, by all accounts, Roland, who in some accounts I've read is also known as Robbie Mannheim, but for our purposes today, we're going to stick with Roland. So, Roland was an only child and was a quiet boy born to German Lutheran parents who, turns out, people have said he was more sort of nerdy than sort of that sporty type. Who loved to spend time with his favorite Aunt Harriet, who just so happened to be a spiritualist, which basically means she believed that humans can communicate with spirits. So it was Aunt Harriet who had a Ouija board, which for anyone who doesn't know what a Ouija board is it's just a flat board with all the letters of the alphabet on it and numbers from 0 to 9, plus a yes or a no written on it. And
Marketed by Mattel. Or actually, it's not Mattel; it's another company. But yeah,
Are you serious?
Games. Yes.
I thought you were joking.
No, it's true.
Oh,
it's a game.
God. No, this is no game. This is absolutely no game, because like when you've got the board, you also have this thing called a planchette, which is traditionally heart-shaped, and everyone who is at the séance, and this is why it's not a game. Because having a seance literally is opening up, the gates of not hell, but you are opening up into another world, basically.
So some would believe, yes.
So some would believe.
Yes.
So everyone puts his finger on a finger who's like at the seance onto a planchette, and then the spirits talk to you by using the planchette as an indicator to spell out words. Have you ever done one?
Yes, on the game. I had to go on the game in a caravan with my next door neighbours, and of course everyone's saying, you're pushing it, and they're all saying, I didn't push it, and then I did it again when I was about 18 or 17, living in Canberra. We all did it, and of course again, it spelt out some very rude words about a person who we were living with, and I think that it was somebody pushing it. Yeah.
I don't think I've ever really done one. I mean, we used one, but I was always too scared. Too scared. And
Yeah,
again,
there did come a point that, because it's Exorcist is out there, other stories are out there. You just know you're not supposed to mess with those things.
no,
So you do it for fun because you're curious, and then you don't anymore.
yeah. And I think there were a few opportunities where I was like, oh no, I'm not going to do it. And so I've seen them. I've kind of been a part of a little bit, and but no, I've never really been part of that. So back to Aunt Harriet. Turns out she did a few seances with young Roland, who reportedly loved it, loved playing with that Ouija board, and actually got a bit obsessed with it. I think he thought it was a bit of a game too. Then poor Aunt Harriet, she died suddenly at the beginning of 1949. Roland, by all accounts, was devastated by the death of his beloved Aunt Harriet, and began using the Ouija board to try to contact his aunt. And that's when weird, bizarre things started to happen at Chez Doe. So
Chez Doe?
Chez Doe.
Is that where they live, Michelle? What's his last name?
House.
Doe, as in D-O-U-H. Doe.
No, as in Roland Doe, D-O-E. You know how, like, in rape
Roland
cases...
Doe.
Well, you know how
I see, like Jane Doe.
Like Jane
Got
Doe.
it.
Yes,
Right.
they called him Roland Doe.
Get
Because
it.
they never wanted to reveal his name. And to this day, nobody knows his real
But
name.
it clearly starts with an R, hence he is otherwise known as, what was the other name you said? Robbie?
Robbie Mannheim.
When Friedkin turned it into a girl in the movie, he called her Regan.
Oh my God. I hadn't even seen that connection.
There you go.
Nice one. So, weird things started happening in the Doe household, like unexplained noises, like dripping sounds with no actual drip, scratching on the walls. Plumbers and pest exterminators were called, but they could not find any evidence of drips or rats. Then apparently the sound of footsteps could be heard, along with knocking and banging. But it was when furniture began moving on its own and objects began flying around the room that the family could no longer ignore what was going on.
That's not fun.
No. And it was even reported that a portrait of Jesus that the family had hanging on the wall began moving on its own and thumping around. Also, poor Roland, he began to get bruises and welts on his skin with no apparent cause. So it's no surprise that after all this, shy little Roland, because apparently he was quite a timid little boy.
Oh, bless him.
I know. He really began to change. You know, his personality went from being, quiet and timid to being really aggressive. He would fly into tantrums and raging outbursts, even became physically violent at times towards his parents.
Could that be the Ritalin?
Well, I don't know that he was on Ritalin.
Right.
I mean, I was kind of shocked when in the movie they're like, yeah, just give Regan Ritalin. I mean, I know that it's for ADHD, but it still shocks me when kids are prescribed medication like that so early. Yeah, so poor old Roland, he started to get really violent. And also, look, they say he started spewing forth all of these vile rampages of obscenities.
Yeah.
And I think it sounds a little bit Tourette's-y, actually.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
So I wonder, I mean, because there are always accounts of people saying this is not possession, it's mental illness, it's, and maybe Tourette's is part of that. I don't know. But anyway, weirder still, he would sometimes speak Latin, which he'd never learned.
Okay.
In a voice.
But did he go to church?
Well, they were Lutherans.
Lutheran's not exactly Catholic, is it? They
No.
don't have all the Anno Domini and
No.
Latin. No.
So I don't know where the Latin came from, but he was speaking in Latin and in a voice that wasn't his.
Just like that. Just like that.
So after basically getting nowhere with doctors and psychiatrists, the family turned to their pastor for help, as you do if you're a Lutheran. And this guy, his name was Reverend Luther Miles Schultz, and he had a really keen interest in parapsychology. at first he was a bit skeptical about Roland's parents' account of what was going on. So he agreed to spend a night in the family house to check out what was going on. He, too, saw the bed shake, saw furniture flying around the room of its own accord, and heard strange banging and scratching noises. His conclusion was, yes, indeed, there was evil in that house. And Roland was the victim of demonic possession. So he performed a little Lutheran exorcism rite on Roland with zero effect. So, and I think he realized he was a bit out of his depth. So he advised the parents to consult with Edward Hughes, a Catholic priest who was maybe more able to perform a more effective exorcism. So when Hughes met with Roland, he was convinced Roland was possessed because during the visit, apparently Roland looked completely like dead behind the eyes. But also when Father Hughes put his Bible on the family kitchen table, according to reports, his chair began to vibrate and then levitate in the air with him still sitting in it.
Hughes or Roland?
Father Hughes. Yes. He then said to Roland, "Who are you?" in Latin. And Roland replied also in Latin,
"Oh my God.
I know. I am legions."
Legions?
Yes. Many
demons.
That's what I think it means.
Oh, that makes me feel a little bit sick. Now, I'm quite the skeptic when it comes to all this kind of thing. I do feel that a lot of it can be explained away, but that made me feel a little bit scared.
Well, it freaked the fuck out of Father Hughes, and he immediately set up a date for an exorcism.
Right, yes, of course. Now, it sounds a lot like, when you're explaining all this to me, I'm thinking about the Enfield haunting. Do you know about that?
No, I do not.
Oh my God, it's such a good... I'll send you some links to some really good podcasts about it, but also there's a fantastic miniseries starring Timothy Spall. It's very good. And Matthew McFadden's in it as well. It's very bloody good. It's like a miniseries. So good. And there's a reunions episode on Radio 4 about the actual people who were involved in it. Like there's the person that Timothy Spall plays is Maurice Grosse, who is into the paranormal only because he had some loss in his own life. His daughter was killed in a motorbike accident. And after that, he turned from whatever he did before, maybe he was a tax advisor or an accountant or something, just a regular suburban dad, you know, he turned to... I think he started a society for paranormal or something, and this family in, like I said, again, single parent family. There was a few kids, a couple of girls in particular were really being affected. One in particular was being affected by this goings on in the house. I'm just going to briefly tell you this. And he was brought in, plus I think the Mirror was involved, Daily Mirror. They got photographs, they got, you know, they filmed things. Everybody could explain it away. This girl was talking in a completely different voice and levitating, and lots of people saw stuff, but it's been explained. You know, skeptics can explain it to a certain degree, but I think the people involved in it just know what they know, just know what they saw and what they experienced. That's the end of what I'm going to tell you about the Enfield haunting. But it's fantastic to investigate. The reunion episode on Radio 4 is amazing.
Well, back to poor old Roland, who really, I mean, he is the inspiration for this film. I mean, it's basically all about him. So going back to Father Hughes, who was freaked right out about being like levitating in his chair, he'd never performed an exorcism before. Mm-hmm. But he was willing to give it a go. And he moved Roland to a Jesuit hospital at Georgetown University Hospital. Apparently when Roland arrived, he got all violent and Tourettesy again, you know, hissing and kicking and spitting at everyone. And he was really like so out of control that his wrists were strapped to the hospital bed during the exorcism. And for 3 nights, Father Hughes performed exorcism rites. Again, unfortunately, with zero effect.
Nothing happened. Oh, dear.
And then on the last night, Roland managed to free himself of one of the wrist straps and ripped a bed spring out of the mattress and slashed Father Hughes from elbow to wrist.
Oh, my God. That sounds familiar. Was that in the film?
It could be, because they've taken a lot from what actually happened and put it into the film, even though it might not be in the correct timeline. Yeah, they have taken a lot of this stuff. So, shortly after this failed exorcism attempt, Roland's family travelled to St. Louis. St. Louis? St. Louis.
St. Louis.
St. Louis. To visit relatives, where they spoke to a Raymond J. Bishop, who was a professor and priest at St. Louis University, who suggested they visit William S. Bowden, who was a senior Catholic priest of the St. Louis Diocese.
Mm-hmm.
So together, these two, they went off to see Roland, and they went to his the home where he was staying, so his relative's house, to understand whether or not he really did need an exorcism. And when they got there, they saw a shaking bed, furniture flying around the room, Roland like cussing in all sorts of weird guttural voices, and they knew immediately they had to go and get permission from the Archbishop to conduct an exorcism. And then, with the church's blessing, they set about getting all the bits and bobs together they needed to perform the real exorcism.
This is his third exorcism now.
This will be, yes. Yes.
Why do they keep going to exorcism when clearly it doesn't work?
Well, I think because the parents, it was a last resort for them, I think.
Last resort? It was the first, second and third resort.
Well, they'd already been to all the doctors and the psychiatrists, and they had no, nothing was making any kind of difference. And I think they were desperate.
Yeah, of
and
course.
I also think these poor priests, they probably said, listen, I'll give it a go. Never done one before. Let me just have a try, and if not, we'll go find someone who knows more about it than me. Mm-hmm. So I think this is kind of what's happening. But poor Roland, in the middle of all this, he's just being strapped to beds and God knows
poor
what.
Poor chap. Oh, that's terrible.
Poor chap. So it seems that Bishop and Bowden had learned a thing or two from these previous exorcisms, and so they decided to really prepare themselves. So they asked another two priests to help them. This was Walter Halloran and William Van Roo. In order to not repeat the mistakes of previous exorcisms, they decided to conduct the exorcism in a windowless, furnitureless, soundproof room in the psychiatric ward.
Oh my God, that poor little boy.
I know, of the Alexian Brothers Hospital. I know. I mean, I think he's 14 at this point. So they made in the film, they made it a girl who was 12, but he's 14. So it's reported that when Roland first saw the priests, he spat in their faces and got all Tourettesy again, but then also made in weird sexual propositions towards them and was physically violent. And then,
oh my God,
I know. And then there are things on the internet which you don't know what to believe and what's real and what's not. But
yeah, there's a lot of legend, I think, sewn into it, especially with The Exorcist itself. Yeah,
yes, I think so too. And and this is where accounts differ for what actually happened on this exorcism. And I'm no expert, but here we go. So according to some sources, this exorcism was the final exorcism. Mm-hmm. Other sources claim that there were more than 30 exorcisms conducted over a period of 6 weeks by this little crew. So wherever the truth lies, there are some facts that keep repeating and coming up over again. That marks and words appeared to magically materialize on the boy's skin during the exorcism, including the words evil and hell.
Well, that's in the movie.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Then some say it was the ingesting of a communion wafer.
Just a wafer?
A wafer that finally rid the evil spirit from Roland's body. While
if only they'd known that before.
I know, just feed him a little wafer and a glass of wine. Or is it?
They're all better now.
Here we go.
Bloody hell.
But others say it was the Litany of Saints portion of the exorcism that finally dispelled the demons. Well, I think the Litany of Saints is part of...
Oh, that's a thing.
Yes, I think...
It's a piece.
Yes, part of the ritual. But either way, Halloran's nose was broken by Roland during the ritual. And although there was no spinning head or pea soup, there was a lot of bed shaking, spitting, violence, and filthy language before the
Well, I'm not
priest.
surprised. That poor boy being harassed by 2 priests in a windowless, furnitureless bloody room for 6 weeks. No, thank you.
I know. But, I mean...
It's abuse.
It is abuse. And finally, I mean, they drove the evil spirits from Roland's body, whereupon he is reported to have said, "It's over. He's gone."
Oh. And didn't that happen in the film as well?
I think so. But
you watched it recently, didn't you?
Yes, but I only remember the like cunty bits and.
Did you have your eyes shut?
No. Do you know what?
Your ears blocked.
Do you know what? The film itself, the music in it to start with is super scary, and that's what actually made me think it was really scary. But in the end,
that's the Mike Oldfield. Is it that one?
I don't think it's that one.
That famous piece of music. I'm sure it's Mike Oldfield.
No, I don't think it is. You need to Google that right now.
I'm Googling.
But no, I mean the thing is like because like I think Jen let us
Tubular
watch.
bell. It says here.
Tubular bells.
Bell. Yeah. Oh, hang on.
Oh yes, that's it. That's it.
Thank you, and that's exactly what I sang earlier. Think you'll find? Pitch perfect.
Well, that is exactly it, and it is scary. But also, all the incidental music is really super scary, and actually, the film itself, like you look at it now, and it's kind of funny in some ways because, you can tell it's like a little plaster cast of a dummy where the words are coming through and on the skin
you can
and
see
stuff.
That,
But when you think back, like there is no green screen effects. Like they had to do all of this themselves. It is pretty scary.
Yeah.
But I was thinking about this because nowhere could I find that Roland as a male child, it's not like he was like jacking off to a crucifix.
Ew.
Or anything like that. No, but I mean,
Right.
it's interesting that obviously...
I see where you're going, yes.
They
made the most of the fact that she's a girl.
Yes. It's not very nice. It's not very nice.
A little girl, poor thing.
No. But then
Wow.
Roland apparently, reportedly, went on to live a normal life. I think in no small part to the fact that he was given the alias Roland Doe or Robbie Mannheim to protect his true identity. And he apparently got married, had a family, never succumbed to further demonic possession, and apparently does not remember a single thing about being possessed or what it even felt like.
Right.
And it's like it erased his memory of that whole time, even though, people were all up in arms about it. So,
I'm glad to hear that it all worked out for Roland.
Yes, yeah. I mean,
poor kid.
Well, but I mean, I think it's quite amazing that, and I did lots of searching. His real name is nowhere.
No.
I mean, that's the
Is
kind
he
of
real?
secret.
Do you think, Michelle?
Yes, because this was reported on the front page of the Washington Post back in the day, in the 1940s, and this true story is what inspired, obviously. What's his name? William Peter Blatty to write the book. Yeah. So apparently in 1978, Father Raymond Bishop, who was involved with those exorcisms, apparently that his diary was found in 1978 at the Alexian Brothers Hospital where that final exorcism was performed. Yes.
That's after the film was released.
Yes. Well, that doesn't make any sense, does it?
Well, what were you going to say next? Sorry to debunk everything.
No. But that's absolutely...
What does it say? What were you going to say?
No. So basically, his diary was found in 1978, but it was a book by Thomas B. Allen, who was who wrote this book called Possessed, The True Story of an Exorcism, that was sort of the source material for William Peter Blatty. And apparently he says he's never read this diary.
Who Blatty says he never has.
Yes.
Okay.
And
well,
like before...
that would make sense because he found it in 1978 and the book was already written. And
no, but he hasn't even read it since.
Since. Okay.
So, and Blatty, he... it was this book, when he released it, it was an instant bestseller. It was crazy.
What year was that released?
1971, the book came out. And then the film came out in 1973.
73, yeah.
Yes. And then he was actually hired to write the script for The Exorcist.
Did he?
Yes, he did. Under the guidance of William Friedkin, the director. Mm. And I think that Blatty wanted Friedkin to direct the movie because he thought it would give it a more realistic sense of like being more documentary style. I mean, come on, there is nothing documentary about The Exorcist. It is like pure schlock. And in 1973, when the film opened, and it didn't open in many cinemas, it was really small release. It was absolutely like panned by the critics. They hated it, but audiences loved it.
Well, yes, they did love it because it was all ramped up, wasn't it? All the excitement of how awful this film is. Yeah. They had the trailer would induce fits, epileptic fits, so it had to be pulled.
Well, they were saying people were throwing up in their seats.
That's right.
Apparently, janitors were complaining because they had so much extra work to do, cleaning up all the vom.
So if people couldn't believe that there was something so scary out there, they would be flocking to the cinema to see that.
No, people were fainting. Heart attacks were reported. Apparently, one woman had a miscarriage after seeing it. And despite all of this, and for calls for it to be banned, the film opened across all, the world, basically, the US and around the world. In Canada, apparently 4 women were committed to psychiatric care after seeing it. Mm. In West Germany, a 19-year-old man shot himself after seeing the film. In the UK, a teenager apparently murdered a 9-year-old girl after seeing the film.
Oh, my God.
And apparently he said, "Oh, it wasn't me. It was something inside me that made me do it."
Mm-hmm.
Like The Exorcist.
Uh-huh.
And then in April 1974, evangelist Billy Graham, that crazy TV.
Yes, I know what he says about this film. Yeah.
Well, he said it stank of evil, and the devil is in every frame.
Every frame. I heard that too.
Yeah, and that you will be tainted simply by seeing it.
Yes.
So, I mean, was it all just effective publicity, or do you think there's something...
I believe it was.
So you don't think there was anything deeper going on?
No, I don't. I think it was opportunist, taking advantage of people's fear, and obviously the church was very strong at that time as well. It was actually revealed by cast and crew that despite certain coincidences, of which, do you know about some of the things that happened on set? Did you know about the sets burning down?
I've got a few here to talk about. Yeah, but no,
everything
continue.
Except. Okay, so there was a few coincidences which you can touch on in a minute, Michelle. But Friedkin and the producers were ramping up the curse aspects to get bums on seats. Reports of audience members fainting, seizure-inducing trailer being pulled, and the announcement from Pope Paul VI that demons are real. That all happened around the same time, and that helped the film to do really well at the box office. Poor old Linda Blair, though, she had a really tough time after the film was released because people were scared of her.
Oh my God.
She's like 14 years old and people are crossing the street or yelling at her. She had a terrible time. This is all in this documentary that docuseries I watched called Cursed Films on Shudder, the horror network.
Okay.
And she said that, she didn't say, but they heard that apparently the studio provided bodyguards, but she said ominously in this docuseries, "I won't talk about that." So it must have been a really tough time for her. But she did say that one of the PRs for the film confessed to her that they were told to create fear to drum up publicity for the film. No,
but the thing is, she never really worked again, did she? I mean, did she have a career afterwards?
Probably. You know what? You said this about poor old Ben Mendelsohn, our little Aussie battler.
Oh.
When we watched that show the other day, what was it, the Stephen King, what was it called, The Outsider, which was brilliant. And you were like, Oh, good old Ben Mendelsohn. He hasn't worked for years, bless him. He's been winning awards, Michelle, across the board. He's been in massive films. He's been in The Queen's Speech. He's been in The Darkest Hour. He's been in so many things. He's had his own shit going on for years. Just because you haven't seen him, or because, you probably last saw him in a country practice or something, falling off a ladder.
Oh, poor old Ben Mendelsohn.
Good old Ben.
But you know what? He was never the one that was going to... be the one most likely to succeed. I always thought it was going to be Noah Taylor. Well, it was always Noah Taylor for me.
Well, they've both done well.
Yes, I know, but poor old Noah hasn't had a great time either, has he?
Why not? What's happened to him? He was in Game of Thrones.
He was not.
Yes, he was.
Oh, maybe in the later series. I didn't see. But there you go.
Have you not watched it all?
No, I haven't.
And he's in the middle. He was right in the slap bang in the middle.
Oh, all right.
He was the one that chopped off Jamie's arm. Spoilers.
But Game of Thrones, yes. I loved it and then just sort of dropped off. But no, Noah for me was always my favourite. Ever since I saw him in a play, the Belvoir's production of The Seagull. And you know who else was in that?
Kate Blanchett.
Yes. Right back when no one even knew her name. She went on, she stole the show. She was absolutely incredible. But I was there just to see Noah Taylor and to have him be my boyfriend afterwards. Because I loved him.
Are you sure it wasn't Ben Mendelsohn? Because they do get mistaken for each other a lot.
How? No.
Well, they say. They both admit to it.
Oh, I don't know.
They look similar.
No.
They do.
But do you remember the year my voice broke?
I didn't watch it, but I do know about it because it was filmed in Braidwood.
Yes, it was right near you.
And everybody knows.
Absolutely beautiful.
The hotel.
That's when I first fell in love with Noah Taylor.
You fell in love with him, did you?
I did. That's why I went to see him in The Seagull.
He was in Girls.
Was he?
Did you watch Girls? Yeah, he was the father of the one with the mermaid hair.
Oh, was he really? God,
Yes.
I've got... Again, see? Zero memory. I don't remember anything about anything. So poor old Linda Blair. So she did work again. I don't know.
She probably did. I haven't got any info on that, but I bet she did.
I bet she worked again.
Yeah.
Well, I have a few little bits here. Let's see.
Go on then.
So, yes, you touched on this. The fire. There was a fire on the film set. It happened one Sunday morning. It's reported the entire set was reduced to ash except... for Regan's room, which was miraculously untouched. Filming had to be shut down for 6 weeks while the set was reconstructed. And then as soon as filming was ready to commence, the sprinkler system broke. So it got delayed. Then when it came to the actual cast, many of them encountered like personal tragedies and weird troubles during the shoot and beyond. So first of all, actor Max von Sydow. So he was the one that played elderly Father Merrin, who actually...
wasn't old at the time.
No, he had to spend hours in makeup to make him
He was on
look...
Game of Thrones, and he just died recently, didn't he?
What, in real life?
Yeah.
No.
He's just died.
Oh my God, had no idea. Do you know who died yesterday?
Connery.
Yeah.
Sean Connery. Yeah.
Oh. Well, poor old Max von Sydow.
Yeah.
Right, so his brother unexpectedly died in Sweden at the beginning of shooting.
He died this year.
Oh,
Not his brother, but Max von Sydow. Yeah.
Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah.
Oh, R.I.P. Max. And Sean.
And Sean.
And poor old Shawnee. Then the Irish actor Jack McGowran, who he played the mum's boozy louche director, Burke Dennings, in the film.
Right. Yeah.
He literally died weeks after his character Burke was killed in the movie.
How was he killed in the movie? Remind me.
He got thrown out the window. Burke.
It's a terrible name. Terrible name.
I know. Burke got thrown out the... He got thrown out the window.
By
Regan.
Oh, okay, right.
You never saw it. It was just...
Saw him land.
Hinted. No. 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 And he died from flu, age 54.
Oh, well,
I know.
that shit can happen. I mean, look what's happening now.
Yes, I know. Pandemic. Then Vasiliki Meliaros, who
Is
played...
another priest?
That's a woman. And she... she played Father Karras's mother.
Right.
She also did not live to see the film.
Is she the one who sucks cocks in hell?
Yes. Your mother sucks cocks in hell. That's her.
Thanks, Kermit. That was your Kermit impersonation.
That was meant to be scary.
Father Bear!
That was meant to be scary. Hang on, right. Whoops. Listen, okay.
Your mother sucks cocks in hell.
Was that more scary?
Yeah, I would be scared.
No, you're not. So she died of natural causes, aged 89.
Okay,
Hey.
well, that is a shock.
Shocker. Shocker.
Oh my goodness. I mean, that's a coincidence. She was old.
Yes, but only like before the film was even released. It's about timing, love.
Okay,
Timing.
yeah. It's just things that they can just pile on top just to make it seem even more scary and to get all the people to go and watch it, and they can just make loads of money.
Yeah, yeah. Well then, so apparently Jason Miller, who played Father Karras, and let me tell you, in the film, Father Karras, he is this chisel-jawed...
Yeah, he's the
dude.
one that looks like someone else, doesn't he? He looks like Gregory Peck or someone like that, or Rock Hudson.
Well, he looks like those dudes off...
Ben Mendelsohn.
Noah Taylor.
Noah Taylor.
Do you know what? Do you remember when your mum used to have all those like sewing patterns, and they always had those
Yes.
really chisel-jawed...
And he's on the front of the packet with his
Buttericks.
terry cloth.
Buttericks.
Buttericks. With his terry toweling robe that you
Yeah.
can make in
At
a shorty
home.
style or full length. Or a caftan for your dad.
Oh. he looks like one of those guys. I mean, he's quite handsome.
Yeah.
And well, apparently, during filming, his young son, this guy's called
don't.
Jason Miller. Father
God.
Karras's real name is Jason Miller. No.
Okay.
His young son was walking along the beach. Out of nowhere, motorbike comes, hits him, almost dies. Now,
God.
I've read on the internet, and I
A
can't...
motorbike on a beach?
Yes, out of nowhere. Bizarre. Very bizarre. Apparently, this son, so son of actor Jason Miller, who played Father Karras, is none other than Jason Patrick.
Oh, the actor who was in
Lost
another
Boys.
Halloween favourite, Lost Boys. I couldn't find it anywhere. I wanted to show the kids, but I think maybe it's inappropriate. We watched Coraline instead. They don't make them like they used to.
They don't make him like they used to, and they say cunt in them. So you...
They say cunt these days, clearly. I mean, you just said it.
Whoops. Yes, apparently he's the dad of Jason Patrick, and he nearly died during filming of The Exorcist.
Oh,
Yes. Wow.
Interesting. But again, coincidental.
Yeah, whatever.
There's a lot of people that work on a film.
Yeah, I know, but so Linda Blair's grandfather died during filming.
Okay, he was grandfather. Okay, he's old.
Security guard died during filming.
How old was he?
Don't know.
What
Guy-
did he die of?
Don't know. Guy who refrigerated the set died during production.
Refrigerated the set.
Yes, because you know how they like during the film when the demons are in possession of Regan's body and they have all the breath coming out. Yeah, the like frozen breath. They had to refrigerate the whole set. She's there in a little nightgown.
Poor
I know,
Linda.
freezing her tits off. And
little Linda.
I know. So then apparently as well, cameraman's baby, stillborn. Stillborn.
Okay.
Janitor was shot and killed.
By?
It's just a random during filming. And a carpenter.
Not on set.
Not on set, but he worked on the film. Carpenter lost his thumb.
Okay.
Ellen Burstyn.
That's a lot of coincidences. Yes, Ellen Burstyn, she hurt herself during filming.
Well, she did, and she still complains about that injury today.
Yeah.
And then,
And the injury happened when she was being pulled back, you know, when she was really slapped.
Yes.
And then they pull her back with a pulley thing, and apparently she bashed something.
Yeah. I mean, it
quite
looked
badly.
very violent in the film. But, she still complains of that injury. And then...
And fast and loose with his cast.
Oh, too much.
Health and safety. Friedkin.
Wouldn't be allowed now. Wouldn't be allowed now. Safety monitor. But then, so the voice of the demon. I mean,
Uh-huh.
it was this woman, Mercedes McCambridge, who didn't get credit in the original film, and then she like took them to court and
Well, I
sued
think
Warner
she might be
Brothers.
the actress that I was talking about earlier.
Which one?
The one that is the body double as well.
No.
She also does the face, you know, when the face suddenly looks like it's full of makeup and looks at the... That's her as well.
Yeah. Well, this one, Mercedes, she was...
Oh, I know about her.
Old,
I know
yes.
about her.
Yes. So she was the voice of the Exorcist demon.
Yes,
And
I've
she
heard
got no
something.
credit for it. So she sued Warner Brothers. It was all very controversial at the time. But, so, this is terrible. What
Yes.
happened to her? So, December 16, 1987, her son, John Lawrence Markle, grown-up son of Mercedes McCambridge,
Yes.
shot his wife and 2 daughters at point-blank range while wearing a Halloween mask with Nightmare of Elm Street playing on the VCR.
Oh, God.
He then shot himself. And
Oh.
then in one of the most harrowing scenes in the film, and it's not even anything to do with the demonic possession,
Yes, I know which one you're
but
talking about.
where she is in the hospital getting this injection into the neck. Oh my God. There is a radiographer. And now you know more about this than me.
I do.
Well, off
Do
you
you
go.
want to talk about it?
Off you go.
Okay, well, director William Friedkin wanted a medical scene for the movie involving a cerebral angiography, which is what you were talking about, the neck piercing, performed on the main character Regan to try and find a medical explanation for what was later to be revealed as full-blown demonic possession. He visited an NYUMC hospital, which I think has changed names now. It's New York University Medical Center, it stands for, and watched the procedure being performed. So impressed was he that Friedkin employed Barton Lang, who was the radiographer who performed the procedure, plus his assistant, plus the nurse as extras, and they all appeared in the film. The assistant's name was Paul Bateson, and it's said that the graphic scene he appeared in was one of the most disturbing in a film where a little girl's head spins round while announcing to a priest that his mother sucks cock in hell, which we've already touched on. In 1977, which is 4 years after the film's release, Bateson was arrested for the murder of showbiz reporter Addison Verrill. Verrill, or Verrill, I don't know how you pronounce that, apologies once again, was found beaten and stabbed in his own apartment. There were no signs of forced entry and nothing of value taken, but the police put it down to a robbery gone wrong. Verrill's friend, journalist and gay activist Arthur Bell, wrote a piece in the Village Voice, also focusing on the greater issue of the murders of gay men, which had been happening for, I think, a few years at this time. They were occurring yearly in the village and were not being taken seriously enough by police and media, and usually put down to a sexual encounter gone awry. Arthur Bell ended his article by inviting members of the public to get in touch with police if they had any information on the crime. 8 days later, Bell received a phone call from a man who confessed to the crime, wanting to atone. He told Bell he was a drunk and needed money, so after meeting in a gay club, he ended up partying with Addison Verrill. He wasn't aware of Verrill's celebrity until the night wore on, and eventually went home with him where they drank, took drugs, and had sex. The caller said it became clear that Verrill was done with him when it's all ended, like by morning, like about 6 or 7 in the morning. And this enraged the caller, who then attacked Addison Verrill with a frying pan and stabbed him to death. He didn't want to identify himself, the caller, but insinuated that if he got caught, he would lose his license.
Oh.
Right? A few days later, another phone call came in to Arthur Bell from a man claiming to know who killed Addison Verrill and naming him as Paul Bateson. Remember the assistant to Lang, who was the radiographer in that scene? So he's I think he's an anesthesiologist, I think is what his job is. I'm not sure. I should know. Police arrested Bateson and he confessed to the crime because he was drunk at the time, I think, when they turned up, and he was expecting them. At the time of Bateson's arrest, police had also been investigating a series of murders of gay men over the previous 2 years, which they believed were committed by the same person due to the similar modus operandi. 6 corpses of men had been found, dismembered in bags floating in the Hudson River. None had ever been identified, but investigations led to the clothes the victims were wearing to shops in Greenwich Village that catered to the gay community.
Mm-hmm.
the bags and the bodies were found in reportedly had wording on them connecting them to NYUMC's neuropsychiatric unit.
No.
So this is why it's all adding up. And there's a legend around Paul Bateson, because he did go down for murder, but they also, you'll often hear it said that there was an active serial killer who features in the film. But that's not necessarily true, because it's, as you've just heard, it's 4 years later when he gets arrested for Addison Verrill's murder. But they're trying to pin these other murders on him, yeah.
But that's it. I mean, he could have been killing during the movie.
He could have been. So dismemberment of the bodies appeared to have been done by someone with specific knife skills, which led investigators to suggest publicly that Bateson might be a suspect in the killings. Those killings were the subject of another interview Bateson gave, although it would be not be made public until 2012. Friedkin, who remembered him from both his initial visit to NYUMC and the filming of the angiography for The Exorcist, recalled him to be a nice young man who stood out due to the earring and studded bracelet he wore. After reading a news story about the murder and allegations of serial killings, Friedkin was surprised and intrigued, so he came to Rikers Island to talk to him about the murders. Bateson said that the prosecutors were offering him a deal if he confessed to the bag murders and some other unsolved killings, and he would receive a shorter sentence as a result of admitting to all these other murders. But he didn't. At the time, he told Friedkin that he wasn't sure if he would accept it, and I don't think he did.
Okay.
After this conversation with Bateson, Friedkin decided it was time to make the filmatic adaptation of the New York Times reporter Gerald Walker's 1970 novel Cruising, about a police officer going undercover in the gay community to catch a serial killer based on the bag murders.
Oh.
So you got another film out of it.
Oh, see, there he goes. It's a gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah, ka-ching, ka-ching. Although I don't think that film did very well. Bateson was never charged for the bag murders, there you go, and ultimately served 24 years and 3 months of his sentence, becoming eligible for parole in 1997. On the day after his 63rd birthday, in August 2003, he was released from prison.
Is he still alive?
I think so. He's old, but yeah, I think he's still knocking around.
So he's out there.
He's out there, man. Bateson was portrayed in the second season of the Netflix miniseries, series, sorry, not miniseries, Mindhunter. Have you seen that?
No.
Oh my gosh. Watch that. It's so good. Ooh. So good. Really good. Also in season 2 of Mindhunter was David Berkowitz, the son of Sam killer. And I've just added this in because of something that he says, and it links back to The Exorcist. He claimed that he killed 6 people and injured several more because he was under the influence of his neighbor's dog, which was possessed by demons. That was his motive, apparently. That's what made him do all this murdering.
Shonky.
But eventually Berkowitz confessed that his story about demons ordering the killings was all a hoax. And his portrayal on Mindhunter implies his elaborate possession story may have been inspired by The Exorcist. Here's a line from Mindhunter. I was being controlled by a 3,000-year-old demon. People need to know demons are real. The Exorcist is based on actual shit, he tells FBI Special Agents Ford and Tench during his interview. You can go watch that on Netflix.
I'm gonna.
So yeah, I watched all this is from a docu-series called Cursed Films on the horror streaming service Shudder. In the documentary, they explore the curse of The Exorcist, The Omen, Poltergeist, The Crow, and the Twilight Zone movie, all of which had very tragic events and deaths surrounding them. Yeah, it was quite horrific, actually, especially The Twilight Zone. It's awful, Michelle.
The Twilight Zone?
The movie.
Oh, no, I don't think Have I seen it? I must have seen it.
But you must know what happened.
I don't remember things.
But you must know what happened around the controversy around it. They were filming. I've got all my notes and I didn't write it down here. Maybe we'll do it another time because we don't think we'll have time to talk about this today. But the actor Vic Morrow and 2 child actors aged 6 and 7 who were supposed to be portraying Vietnamese children in a village that he was rescuing. They were all killed by a helicopter that came down because too many incendiary devices that they used for, like, they were supposed to be in the war zone, and too many of these bombs went off and the helicopter somehow came down on top of the 3 actors, killed them all instantly, cut them in half. The parents of these children were watching this.
Oh my God.
And it was at 3 o'clock in the morning or something ridiculous. And the reason why there's more problems like with courts and lawsuits and things was because they didn't go through a casting agent to get the kids, because no one would let the kids work at those hours and in that kind of dangerous position. So they went and got some kids off the street.
No. Oh God.
It's really awful, but I'll talk about that another time because we haven't got time for all of that. But there was a skeptic on this series that said, cursed horror films, not cursed horror films. Cursed non-horror films, not cursed non-horror. Which films are the most interesting? 3 Men and a Baby, where there was something spooky happening with that film. There was you can see someone in the background, like a ghost in a few scenes. But that's not a horror film. So why is that? That's just not talked about to the extent of the Omen and Poltergeist and the Exorcist. Yeah, look into it. There is the shadow of a man in the original 3 Men and a Baby with Hanks, Danson, and the other fellow. And The Shining, that's one of the most horrifying films of all time.
Oh, Jack Nicholson, I love him. Love him.
No curses.
No curses?
It's not. There's no curses involved with that film.
No, because he, no one wants to curse. Good old
Jack Nicholson.
He's lovely. He's too nice.
What a lovely man.
What a lovely, lovely chap.
So I've got some information about the Omen Curse. Shall I go into it now, or shall I just talk about it another time?
Oh,
we've probably run out of time, haven't we?
We are.
We'll go into this another time.
Well,
but there is psychology, basically. Well, I just want to talk about something, actually. The psychology professor, Clay Routledge, explained that when you're watching a horror film, you're often watching something that's outside of logical understanding. And as a result, you become more open to supernatural ideas, and it puts you in the right mindset to see patterns if you want to see them, and to believe in conspiracies or believe in curses. Now, for example, I'm just going to throw this one out there. Mark David Chapman, do you remember that name?
Yes.
He was the assassin of John Lennon.
John Lennon.
He was standing outside John Lennon's building, deciding whether or not to go through with shooting him, right? Whilst he was deciding this, so he went there, but he was thinking, do I, don't I, do I, don't I, do I, don't I? I know if I see something that tells me that I should, then I will. Well, then Mia Farrow walks past him.
Oh my God, Rosemary's Baby.
Thank you. Then he looked up and he realized that was the building that they filmed, the outside shots of Rosemary's Baby.
What? John Lennon's building? Dakota building?
Something. Yes, the Dakota building. Yeah, apparently.
No.
Then he realized that film was directed by Roman Polanski.
Yes.
What happened to Roman Polanski's wife, Sharon Tate?
Oh.
She was murdered by the Manson family. It's a Beatles song. Helter Skelter.
Yes, that's true. Yes.
All of this in Mark David Chapman's mind added up as a green light for him to go ahead with his assassination because he saw those patterns.
Yes. There you go. And then boom. Bang, bang, bang.
So I got all my information from Wikipedia, Entertainment Weekly, Scream Queens, Shudder, the documentary Cursed Films.
Well, I got my information from the internet.
You're not going to give anyone any credit for all that amazing research that you've gleaned?
Let me have a look. We've got Serial Killer Shop.
Nice.
We've got Mysterious Universe.
That sounds great.
American Haunting Sink. And Wikipedia. There you go.
Of course, good old Wiki.
Yes.
Have you got any other information about it that you want to share? Is there any other
little tidbits?
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. Not more than I think 70s was a fantastic time for filmmaking. Cursed
and horrors.
Yeah, my God. Was it cursed? I'm not sure. I think you're right. You can see patterns in everything. But is it worth watching? Is it worth watching The Exorcist now, in this day and age? I was shocked for reasons other than being scared.
We're seeing a little girl swearing and sticking things up her
veggie. Yes, it wasn't good. Yeah, no, it wasn't good. But no, I think I think that's it for me.
Oh.
Yeah,
Well, that was amazing, Michelle. Thank you for a very well-researched and intriguing journey into a horror film,
Well,
The
thank
Exorcist.
you.
And I'm glad that you sat and watched it again, because I don't think I could do that.
Oh, do you know what? It was hilarious. I watched it over 2 sittings, so I got interrupted. Something I don't need to do again.
No.
But it was entertaining. But I did like a few of her outfits.
Who, Burstyn's?
Yes.
Yeah, I love the 70s fashion.
Oh,
I tell
me
you what.
too.
I'm wearing tracksuit pants today.
Yeah, me too. I mean, trackies and a beanie. Always a beanie. Yeah, that's my fashion for today.
Should we sing a little song to as an outro?
Yes. Here we go.
Right.
Goodbye,
Let's see if we can hear
guys.
you this time. Yeah, sorry about the sound quality. Sorry about the Zoom situation. We're very new at this, but like and subscribe, and
See you next week.
And see you next week. Okay.
Ready?
1, 2. It is time for you to stop all of your
Robin.
It is time for you to stop all of your sobbing. Oh, there's one thing. I'll tell you what.
I was about to do some
You're
harmony.
about 2 seconds behind me.
No.
Yes.
Is that what you hear?
Yeah. 1, 2. It is time for